Hi, I'm Steve. Welcome back to the Maker's Cave. And today we're going to be continuing our build of the Eagle Moss Enterprise 1701D. I'll put a link below to Eagle Moss in case you want to do the build, which I highly recommend. It's fun. There's a learning curve with all the parts. Like today, we're going to be putting on some panels and doing some electrical wiring. And there's some tips and tricks along the way that I'm going to show you of some of the things we did. So bring you guys forward and we'll get started. We'll start off stage 20 by bringing in panel 20A, and we're going to take two escape pods and we're going to put them in the escape pod holes right there. When you're putting in the life pods, just make sure that the line that's drawn on the escape pod is farthest from the edge of the panel. Now we're going to add in some windows to this panel. So we'll go and get those clear and dark windows. They're still on the sprue, so we'll have to cut them off of them. And then what I'll do is I will probably follow the pattern right here in the book, but you can put them in any way you would like. So we have all the lights in, and while we were putting them in, we discovered a little trick that I want to share with you. Back on stage 19, they had us hold these escape pods in by putting these stickers over the back of them. So that gave us an idea of why not use Scotch tape on the back of the windows. So when we got all these lights in, we put some Scotch tape all along here, and it holds it on there. It's not going to affect any of the light transmission, and I think it's going to be a nice trick to use moving forward. So we have our panel with our Scotch taped in lights, or windows rather. And now it wants us to take panel 20B, which is the reflector panel, and it's going to have us put them onto this panel of lights that we just did. I overlooked the step, which is you're supposed to take one BP screw and screw it in right in this hole right here so it stays in place, while in the next step you add some LED lights. The next task in step A requires you to get the two light pieces that have two LEDs on them. There is one wiring piece for the right side and one for the left. Each wiring piece has two LEDs, a red and black LED and a yellow and white LED. With the panel window side down, you want to take one wiring piece and put the yellow and white LED in the right upper side slot and the black and red LED in the slot under it. At this point, I realized I had forgotten to put that BP screw in to hold the panel in, so I went ahead and did that. The black and the red LED of the other wiring piece goes in the slot on the left side. The yellow and white LED will remain loose. Once those three LEDs are in place, secure the reflector plate in place with two more BP screws. And there's your finished panel. Before we move on to the next step, they want us to test this panel to make sure the LEDs work. I'll turn off the room lights so we can see the lights better. And as you can see, all the LEDs are working. All the lights light up. Let me use my finger to cover this up here so you can see just the windows. Now, I am noticing that there's a hot spot in that one window. What I might do is replace that with a black window. It seems that when you have a clear window right next to where the LED is slotted, it's a real big hot spot. Okay, so here's that same panel, and as you can see, I put two black windows next to each other right by that LED, and that's going to cut out that hot spot we saw. So now we move on to step B, and we're going to bring back the saucer frame because we're going to install that panel that we just did. Just like the other panels, we have to follow the instructions carefully on how they want us to wire this so the panels will sit flush. So as we lay this panel in here, we want to take this lead that's on the left right here, and that goes through the frame. It's actually next to that one panel. Just kind of thread that through. Now the lead on the right side actually goes through the frame where that panel is going to be sitting. If I can grab a hold of it. It goes right through there. And that's it for the wiring for that panel. Now while holding that panel in place, you want to flip the frame over. And now it's time to secure that panel, and we're going to be using 3 DP screws to do that. We're going to be moving on to step C here, and it wants us to go back to stage 18 and grab panel 18A, because we're going to be putting that on the frame. Now before we put the wiring through or anything else, we need to take the LEDs and bend them to 90 degrees so they'll fit through the frame. The wires will go right through the frame where that panel is going to sit. It's hard to see, but there's little tabs on the bottom of the panel that slide into the joining panel. Now we'll just flip the frame over so we can secure that panel. And that panel is going to get held in with some BM screws, actually 2 of them. So those 2 screws are in. And we'll flip this over. And there's the panel all installed. We're going to start stage 21 by bringing back the Cobra neck. And they're going to want us to install this battery pack that was included with this stage. So we'll orient the Cobra neck like this. And the battery pack just sits right in the middle here. And it gets held in with 2 BP screws. All right, the battery box is all in. Now, the next task in this step is we have to take the little brass nut that they included, and it goes right into the tab of the battery box. Let me see if I can show that to you a little better. Yep, right in there. So that nut fits right in there. Once you've placed that nut into position there is a cap that goes over top of it, and that's part 21H. And there's a little notch on that so you can only orient it in one way, and that gets held in with a couple BP screws. As we're installing this battery box, rumor has it there are 5 of these battery boxes in this build. I think moving forward, I might examine how I can rewire everything so we don't have to keep replacing, 3 AAA batteries in 5 different battery packs. Okay, we're going to be moving on to step B, which is to take this one deck panel 21A, and we'll be fitting in a dorsal phaser array. Just like the other one, it slides right into the slot on the deck panel. And it will get held in with a couple CP screws. Okay, the dorsal array is held in there, and you'll notice there's a recess right up in here, and that is for a transmitter emitter pad, which is basically just a small piece right here with some adhesive tape on the back, and you just simply peel that off and place the emitter pad in there. Once you have that transmitter emitter pad on, they want us to turn that over, and we're going to be putting in some escape pods. So we'll have to cut them off with a sprue. Now that we have the pods off the sprue, you'll notice there's a red line, and that is going to go closest to the edge of the panel. Now that the escape pods are in there, they want us to flip this back over, and we're going to be putting in some windows, 5 windows to be exact, 3 dark and 2 clear. Now you can put these windows in any order you want, but like we've discussed before, when it comes to lighting these windows, I want to put 2 dark windows near the edge of the panel so I don't get a hot spot when LED is placed directly over it. According to the layout they have for these windows, there are already 2 black windows towards that edge, so I can just use the pattern they're using. Once I got done putting those windows in, I went ahead and put some Scotch tape on the back to hold them into place, like we talked about before. That's working really good. And I'm glad we're using that clear tape, because at this next step, you need to put that panel into the saucer frame without any backing, so that tape is really going to secure those lights and those pods in there while we try to mount this in here. Now this panel gets held in with just a single BM screw. Now after you've secured that panel in there, they want us to start off with some wiring and putting some LEDs into the panels. I tried to describe this as best I could, but it was very confusing. If you just follow the directions in the instruction manual and look very carefully at the pictures, you'll be fine. After much discussion, what they want you to do is you want to take this unused lighting wire from stage 19, and they want you to thread it under this frame right here. They want you to take the black and red, put it over to here, and they want you to take the yellow and white and actually secure it right into this LED part right here under this holder and this panel right here. So you take the wire that was included with this stage. I'm going to split these out a little bit, and it looks like the only thing they're having us do anything with is the red and the red and blue. So they want us to go under this frame panel here, through this panel here, and then it goes into here. There we go. Now, it could be me, but they didn't tell me what to do with the yellow and the black, so I'm just leaving it out here for right now. And then in this piece right here, they want us to put in 2 BM screws right in there. Let's put a BM screw in here and here. We already have a BM screw there, here, and here. So that is done. The electrical wire that we had that was included in this stage, which is 21, they had, according to the picture, you take the red and black lead, or the red and blue lead, and you thread it through here and put in this socket. The very next instructions tell you to take the other bulb from that lead, which would be this one, and you want to thread it through the end of this panel here. But it's pictured as a red and blue, or red and black. It actually looks red and blue. But that's not what you have left over from here. So I'm just going to take the other leftover bulb, like they said. I'm going to thread it through here, like they said, and leave it laying there. Now they want you to take the other lead that was left over from stage 20, the previous stage, which is a yellow and white, and they want you to put it through right down here in this frame, like this, and pull it through. Finally, use 4 EM screws to fully secure the deck panel 026 to the deck panel lights, which is over to here. These 2 screws, these 4 right in here. And we're going to use some EM screws to do that. Now that panel is secure, they want us to hook up these leads and test the lights to make sure they work. Okay, so they wanted to test this panel. I actually hooked all the panels up. And as you can see, all the lights are lit now. So those panels we just assembled are good. Now we're moving on to our last stage, stage 22. And they want us to get deck panel 22A. And we're going to be doing some more windows and escape pods. Use our flush cutters and we'll cut the escape pods off the sprue. Now that we have all the escape pods cut off the sprues, we'll hold the deck plate like this, and we'll put the escape pods into the holes, and with the red line farthest from the top edge. All the escape pods are in, and now it's time to do our next favorite thing. Is we're going to be putting in some more lights, and I'm just going to follow the pattern they have here, except where near the edge I may put 2 black windows next to each other to once again cut out those hot spots. Now that we've put all those windows in there, we'll use our clear tape trick to secure those windows in there. We'll use one piece, we'll keep both rows of windows in there, and now we'll put another piece right above it that'll keep those light pods in place and the other set of windows. Now that we had that all scotch taped up, they want us to put that aside and bring over reflector plate 22B. Included in stage 22 were 2 wire leads for the LEDs, and I'll just split these apart to make it a little easier to work with, and they're going to go into that panel that we just brought in. Each wire set has a yellow and white and a red and black LED lead. The yellow and white go at the top of the panels, like this. Now that we have those lights in place, they want us to take this reflective panel and they want us to put on this panel of lights that we have. But history has shown that that these lights don't stay in there when you do this. So I think what I'm going to do is put this reflector plate on here, and we'll just use 2 screws that are going to secure that in there. Those are going to be 2 BP screws. And we'll just lightly secure this panel in place first. Then we'll put the LEDs in. Now, I didn't tighten the screws all the way down. I left that fairly loose. I checked to make sure the windows are still in place. And now we'll slide these LEDs into the slots. Doing it this way makes it a little easier. You're not trying to attach that plate and keep the LEDs in place as well. That side is in. Now we'll take the other lead with the other yellow and white and we'll slip it in the slot. Now that those two are in there, I'm going to tighten down these two screws to secure them in there. Making sure everything sits flat, and it does. And that's all we're going to be doing with this piece for right now. That hole does not get a screw, and those other two slots do not get any LEDs put in them yet. Now we need to bring back the saucer section, and we're going to be installing that panel we just did all the way to the left, right over here. Now to get this panel to fit in, I found it was a little easier to bend this light back a little bit. Alright, now the connector end gets fed right through this panel right here. Now the left side lead gets fed through the empty frame square, just like this. We'll flip the saucer section over, and that panel will get held in with two DP screws. After I put in the one DP screw, out of curiosity, I flipped the saucer section over to see how the panels were aligning. And I noticed there was a horrendous gap. They weren't lining up together. That drove me crazy for about 10 minutes trying to figure out why they wouldn't mate up. I finally noticed that the panel next to the one we were trying to install was off by a tiny amount, as you can see by that gap. That little gap, though, made the panel we were trying to install really crooked with a bigger gap. So I had to go back and realign that panel, and then everything fit nicely. After realigning and reattaching that bad panel, we took the panel we wanted to install and we attached it with two DP screws. And as you can see, it aligns perfect now. We're going to be doing some work on the Cobra neck now, so we need to go get piece 18G from way back in stage 18. Now, supplied with this stage, there were 4 little pieces, and those are actually the locking mechanisms that lock the saucer section onto the battle section. And they align in these holes right here. And you have to pay attention to the picture to see exactly how they align in there. Here's a close-up of the pins aligned in their holes. Note how the placement is. If you don't have this right, the next section will not go in at all. One end of these latches is angled, so the angle needs to be pointing in on both of these. There is a notch on the top right here, and that notch has got to face out. Now that those pins are in place, they want you to go and get the battle section, or the Cobra neck frame, and you're going to lay it right on top of this piece. And this is where the alignment of those pins comes in. As you can see right in here, there is a small section, there's small metal nubs on each frame that lock into those back pins, and then the forward pins slide right into those frame sections right there. And everything gets held into place with 6 BM screws. Now that the frame is all secured, they want us to go get the battle section printed circuit board, which is 22F, and that's going to mount right into this recess right here. That printed circuit board gets mounted in with 2 different types of screws. You use an FM on the top of the board and a BM on the bottom of the board. This board is used for distribution of power to all the different lights, and there's a lot of them. Now that the distribution board for the lights is in there, they want us to get part 22L, and that's an LED cable that has a Y in it. One Y has two black and red LEDs attached to it, and the other Y has a single yellow and green LED. To start wiring this up, you take one black and red lead and you put it through this frame section right here, and the other red and black lead goes through the frame section that's right to the right of it. Once you have those two leads ran, they want you to take the power connector and plug it into the printed circuit board. It goes into the lower left connector right there if you have the frame oriented like I do. Now they have those two leads ran, you need to turn the Cobra neck over, and now you need to take each one of those leads and do some weaving so it goes through this panel right here and then up through this tiny hole right here in this frame section. And you do the same over here, put it down through there and then up through here. There's some recesses in the frame, which I think is where the wire runs through it so it doesn't compress against the shell. Moving over to the next section, retrieve the battle section rear neck assembly, which amazingly has more lights. Okay, so it wants to go like this. What I'm going to do is I'm going to put all the cables up here with my thumb, and I'm just going to bring down the ones that we need as we need them. Okay, so the first one we need is this one right here, and that gets fed through this one right here. Then we take the other side, that gets fed through here. Now this very top lead, the green and red one, which goes to the impulse engine, that does not get threaded, that just stays loose. I'm trying to show this as best as possible, but all the remaining wires get fed through this one frame opening on the Cobra neck, which if you're looking at it the way it is in the video, it's on the right side, third panel from the bottom. The next task is we're going to take this Cobra neck shell and we are going to attach it to the Cobra neck frame, and we're going to do that using 3 CP screws. It sounds pretty simple. You're just going to use 3 CP screws to attach the shell onto the frame, but you have to make sure none of the wires are getting pinched between the Cobra neck shell and the Cobra neck frame, or else it'll never seat correctly when you start to screw it in. It took me a good 5 minutes to make sure all the wires were tucked away and not being pinched before I could secure the panel. Once the panel is all secure, they want you to take the connector for each one of the LEDs and plug it into the board. I don't really think it matters which plug goes where, so I just put them all in. Now that you have everything plugged into the distribution board, what they want you to do is, I guess, test these, and we're going to be putting some batteries into this Cobra neck. Now, for some reason, they didn't include a battery cover for this battery box in the Cobra neck. So they want you to do is get the battery box that we did in the previous stage, remove the cover from that battery box, and install it onto this one. So here's that box, and we're just going to remove the cover off of it. We'll take the batteries out of this box, put it into the Cobra neck box, and then we'll take the cover and we'll put it on. Now you need to locate the battle bridge from stage 17, and you can just pop it right in here. It gets held with magnets. Once you have that battle bridge section in there, you want to flip this over, and you want to take the connector from the battery box and plug it into the printed circuit board. Once the plug's in, we'll flip it over, and we'll use the switch to turn everything on. And you see the lights in the Cobra Neck come on, and it looks like 2 navigation lights start blinking. They'll get installed, I guess, somewhere on the Cobra Neck later on. So everything looks like it's working real good. That completes stages 20, 21, and 22, where we did Cobra Neck work. We installed that distribution board on the back there to power the lights for the Cobra Neck. We also did some work on the saucer frame. We started putting in all these panels. We did the dorsal array and the transmitter emitter pads. So that was issue 6, stages 20, 21, and 22. I hope that some of the tips and tricks we use for getting those panels and those wiring in place are going to help you. And if you did find this helpful, be sure to hit the like button. And if you want to see more of what we're doing, be sure to hit the subscribe button. And if you want to be notified when they come out, hit the bell. For any of the tools that and supplies that I used in today's video, I'll put a link below. And again, I'll put a link below to Eagle Moss in case you want to go there and subscribe to this build. Or one of the other ones. Like I said, we're doing the Eleanor and we're doing the DeLorean. So all those are kind of fun. So until the next build, thanks for stopping by the Maker's Cave. I'm Steve.